Wheeler. I'm your host, and today with me, I have a very cool guest. She's awesome, involved in a lot, and I'll let her introduce herself further.
Welcome to the Honors Podcast.
Hi, my name is Isabel Arroyo. I'm an honors senior. I'm involved in a lot on campus here, including a Latina sorority. I'm in the theater honors fraternity, and some other stuff.
And then what are your majors, your
Oh,
homeland, and your favorite thing to learn about?
yeah. I am a double major in criminal justice with a minor in Chinese. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, and my favorite thing. Oh, okay. So I really enjoy a lot of my hands-on theory criminal justice classes, but I like the weirdness of the honors classes. So that's what I enjoy
That's
learning.
good. Yeah, I've heard about the criminal justice classes. They kind of give up some honors vibes. They got some.
They do. So I'm currently in a crime scene investigation class
Yeah.
in the crime lab. So the crime lab has an entire courtroom, and then it also has three different mock scene rooms, like crime scene rooms. Has an entire testing lab and an airsoft range.
Wow.
Yeah.
How often do you use that?
So it depends on the class, but the class I'm in, we went maybe 3 times in the first half of the semester, but now that we're in the second half, we're there almost every class.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. What made you decide on what is it, criminal justice and
International relations?
Yes.
Yeah. Originally in high school, there were 2 things pushing me. I really wanted to do some sort of global aid, and I thought international relations was the way to go, but I also really wanted to study abroad in Spain, which is what I did last semester.
Very cool.
So I came into High Point knowing I wanted to do that, but I also wanted a minor in criminal justice. But I realized my love for it was too much. As much as I love enjoying and studying it, I knew I couldn't do solely criminal justice. That wasn't enough background for what I wanted to do. But yeah, I couldn't stop taking classes.
Yeah.
That was a big thing.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am with my theater minor. I fear it's going to be a major worthy, but we'll see how to make that work. But then I also got my Chinese minor. It's a whole logistical problem, but it's fun. That's like the honors crisis, is maximizing all your credits to make a degree or a minor and all
Yeah.
this stuff.
Well, the thing is, Dr. Hedman really sold me on it. I came to one of the presidential scholars weekends and was like, I'm only here for the full scholarship or the possibility of getting really close to one. And then I came to the honors presentation with Dr. Hedman, and he was like, guys, you get to do all these crazy things, and you take different gen eds with less credits, so you can do more. And I was like, you're telling me I can do as much as I want, and I can't do as much as I want, but I can do a lot, which is why I came here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. How did you first hear of High Point? Where are you from originally, too?
So I'm from Long Island, which means I always say Long Island, New York, because just saying New York isn't enough. There's
Yeah.
3 different sections to New York. There's upstate, there's in the city, and there's the island.
Right.
Upstate is rural in some places, and that's not my thing. The city is obviously the city and very unique, and then Long Island has its own subculture of the city.
Really?
So it's fast-paced life, and a lot of people will commute out to the city because a lot of people are only an hour away. I'm only an hour away from Queens. So it's very different, but I'm from Port Jeff Station, which is right where the ferry goes out to Connecticut. So if people know Long Island, I always say I'm where the ferry goes out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Wait, so I want to hear about this. So how did you grow up?
Okay, so growing up, my mom's originally from Queens. So my grandparents are still there. My grandparents are in the same house they moved into when they had both their kids, my mom and my uncle. So we used to go every single weekend to go visit them in the city, and we would go to the YMCA for swimming classes. My grandma was teaching there, so we did swimming classes with her. But not only that, we did all the holiday traditional things that a city family would do.
Yeah.
We would go to Rockefeller Center. We would go look at all the window displays during Christmas, and we went to the Lego store, and we always saw like the Rockettes or a Broadway show. And yeah, so Christmas was a big time for like being in Manhattan. But other than that, we would go to the zoo and we would go to the state fairs and like anything happening. I specifically remember, I think it was the Bronx Zoo. We went to the Bronx Zoo a lot, especially with my aunt, because my aunt was in Jersey, so it was easier for her. And they had these chickens, white, fluffy chickens.
Oh, the like pretty ones.
Yes, the really pretty ones. And those were our favorites, so we'd run around chasing them. And my parents love ornament Christmas trees, or ornaments for the Christmas tree that are photos. So there's this one iconic picture of my sister with her, because she had like curly Q afro type hair at the time. She still has curly hair, but it was very short. And she had the chickens, and she was matching the chickens. So it's the
like
white
matchmaking them?
No, like her hair matched how the chicken looked, because her hair was so like big. So it was, yeah. I've lost my train of thought. Hold on. I do that a lot. So the fluffy chickens became like a staple in being in the Bronx, which sometimes I kind of forget what's the city and what's not sometimes because I was there so often. But other than being in the city, growing up, I lived on a cul-de-sac and there were 14 other kids on the block.
Wow.
I'm not even kidding. It was a lot. So the youngest was my brother, who's 3.5 years younger, my brother and his best friend. And then the oldest, I think they're probably 28 now. I'm 22. So imagine that many kids all running on around down the block, like not unsupervised, but like every parent watched. It was a very short street. So I ran around every summer barefoot on the street. And I know that's not so normal up in the north because suburbs and whatnot, but it was very different. I would say I had a unique childhood doing that.
That's very cool. Like, I'm from super rural, like, back of the woods. The deers are just chilling in the backyard. So, like, I also ran the summers barefoot, like, through the woods. So I have that common experience.
Yeah.
But this is so cool. Like, you have access to all this stuff. I've never been to New York, so I know nothing about, like, Rockefeller and, like, Christmas displays other than, like, Home Alone 2. But, I don't know. So how would you say that's, like, influenced who you are as a person, having that, like, bustle of like always having people around and like seeing all these different places and like the creations of humanity?
Yeah. So right now I'm currently trying to move out to the Charlotte area.
Ooh.
And knowing how I lived at home and knowing how I lived here at college has definitely impacted where I want to live in Charlotte. I'm moving in with my boyfriend, so it will be a dual income. However, it's obviously not a super high income because I don't have a job quite yet. I'm still applying. I have my network. But High Point is very, like, there's always something happening. And even though it's not the same as where I grew up, it is very similar in the fact that there's always something there for me to go to, and it's very walkable. Back home, it's not perhaps walkable, but drivable within a couple minutes. And when I'm driving, I'm never really driving more than 5 miles away from my home. I'm not going to lie, because everything is that close. It just takes the time because there's, like, traffic. But on High Point's campus, it doesn't take me time to go far. And then, like, if High Point's having stuff off campus or things that are, like, High Point passport partners, they're close by, too. They're really close. So looking for a new place to live at this moment, it's really hard because the apartments I looked at, they're really nice, super great, safe area, but it was, like, quiet. Like, you couldn't hear, like, too much sound, even though it was close to the interstate, and it was very weird and different for me. But then me and my boyfriend was like, Isabel, we have to go and see this. And I was like, see what? And he goes, I'll just show you. And we get on the interstate, and I was like, oh, this is weird. I've never had to get on a major highway to get anywhere before. He takes me down like 2-3 exits, and we're at Concord Mills, the huge mall. I was like, okay, I feel better. So just being around a lot of people has always been my norm, which is why living in Finch and living in houses wasn't a huge deal for me. Like, I'm used to there always being people around, and I'm used to that noise, and without the noise, I'm like, kind of unsettled.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
That's so interesting. Like, I grew up, it, like, takes 30 minutes to get anywhere. Like, school, it takes an hour to get to a movie theater.
Oh my, how is that possible? Genuinely. Like, my boyfriend definitely lives in a more rural area, and so he's 35 minutes from campus, so I have to go out that way. And I'm like, who lives here? And I know it's definitely a cultural thing, but growing up where I did, I don't understand it quite yet.
Yeah. And, like, I've definitely gotten used to it very fast. Like, everything is so close here. It's, like, a 8-minute drive to Publix on Westchester and then, like, all this stuff. And, of course, like, campus itself is so walkable, so 3 minutes to food. But, yeah, like going out to eat was, like, an event for my family because it was a considerable drive to any close-by restaurant. So, like, it was something we planned, like, days in advance. Be like, okay, we're going to, like, spend the gas money and we're going to go to this restaurant, go out to eat. So, I don't know. It was definitely, like, a slower, quieter lifestyle. Like, you just read at home or you go play in the woods. So, it's just a different vibe. But it's so interesting to see how, like, these different lifestyles play out.
Yeah. And it's not like I wasn't exposed to it. And this might make me sound a little not bad, but like typical high point student. My parents did buy a second home when I was 7. However, mind you, we did not go on vacation ever.
Yeah.
Literally, the vacation was to go to the Jersey Shore. And if anyone knows, the Jersey Shore is super cheap. And we would stay in cheap motels and we just walk the boardwalk. My parents believed in experiences more than money, so my parents didn't get iPhones for the longest time. I didn't have an iPad. I didn't have a tablet. So they were able to buy the house, and with that, they bought an all-in-one, like, everything. It was our vacations, and we went skiing because there was a free ski hill, and I was around in the backyard, and it was, I don't even know what I did. We played Deer Diner. We would leave leaves on a rock for deer because we knew the deer would go to the
Deer
rock.
Diner.
Yes. And it was far from things, but it was in
Yeah. Where was it?
it was in the Poconos in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
And the Poconos are kind of dying a little bit right now, but I was out in nature. My parents would take us to the nature trails, which are free, and then grocery store was like 15 minutes. So it's not like I wasn't exposed to that. But it was just very different because when we went, we would make it a whole like, oh, this is a getaway. Like, we would bring family and friends, and we'd pack as many people into the house as possible because then it's a free for many vacation because accommodations are the worst. But, yeah, I just thought of it as, oh, I'm going somewhere different. I never really thought of it as people really live here because we lived in a gated community, so half full-time living there, half vacationers. Yeah. I'm like, I always wonder about the bus. Like, because it's hilly, I was like, how do you get your kid down to the bus stop in the morning if you have work? Like, and the bus stop is half a mile, some people 2 miles to get down to the bus stop. I don't know. As a kid, I was exposed to it, but I was still confused by it.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, childhood, it's just an experience. It's so interesting. What was my thought?
Sorry, I yap a lot.
No, this is literally the point of a podcast. All right. Okay. Staying in line with throwbacks of the past, I have access to the honors archive of the colloquium challenge photos.
Oh, I forgot about that for a second.
So I have for the Kill the Noise challenge, here's what you wrote. For my Kill the Noise assignment, I decided to kill my messy desk. Since the first week of school, I have not been able to find the time to completely organize my desk, especially since I have just gotten more storage space. So I made the decision to leave my room in order to get away from the mess and concentrate. And then here you are at Great Day Bakery.
Oh my gosh, I did not know you had access to that. That's crazy.
It was fun. What did you think of that freshman year experience being colloquium and then like also your impression of Dr. Hedman in the honors program?
Okay, let me start with the Kill the Noise desk thing is still very relevant. When I am feeling overwhelmed, my desk gets messy and then I can't do my work at the desk.
Yeah.
But colloquium, I think colloquium was a great idea because it got us to do abnormal things. I know I didn't like the readings. Not my favorite.
You weren't a perusal girl?
No, I don't like perusal. I got annoyed at it because I would see other people's comments and some people would write like essays. And I was like, I don't have the energy for an entire essay. I have an energy for like just over the minimum requirement. Just because it was that extra part of the class, that's why. And I felt a little overwhelmed as a freshman. But I remember trying to complete the photo challenges. And I would sometimes complete the challenges. It would be like, go meet someone, go talk to someone, and I would forget to take the photo. And that was definitely a hard part for me, but it was nice to see everyone's face once a week. Yeah. It made you feel more confident in who you were living with because Finch obviously has an open door policy. I hope they still do. I know they changed the doors when I was a sophomore so that the doors used to, when you close them, they didn't lock, but now when you close them, they lock. And as sophomores, having that change in our second semester, so our last semester staying there, a lot of us got locked out very often because we would just leave our room. But the open door policy really gave us the confidence to just go talk to one another, especially about homework when we were struggling and because we were in a lot of different classes. So you're in your major classes and then you're in your honors classes. And they're way different. And I remember some nights we would just start talking about colloquium because Dr. Hedman would say something like outrageous. And we'd all just kind of sit down in the hallway and just start talking.
In the hallway?
Yes. Like, because open door policy, two people would start like talking in their doorway. And then more people walk by and maybe one person joins. And then maybe your neighbor across the hall, because some of the doors line up, they start talking to you. And then eventually it gets to the point where you're a group of like 6 people. You all just kind of move away from the doors. And then you move where the walls are and you all just kind of sit down on both sides of the hall. You've never had that happen?
No, because unfortunately with the doors being locked now, the doors are just closed. And, like, I learned about is because, like, my class was the first year, like, that was the norm. Like, we never knew the doors were open. But I had learned about it, and I was like, oh, man. Because, like, that's just naturally how it is. So, like, we're more likely to not talk as much. So, my class, we still all know each other, and we'll still go, but we've never sat in the hallway and chatted.
Yeah. It's sad to see the honors policy of open door disappear, but I think colloquium definitely helps with that because you're seeing the people. Seeing the faces is one of the biggest parts of being on a university campus. Like, you see the face over and over and over again, and then you start feeling confident of, oh, maybe I'll go talk to them.
Yeah.
So
that was why one of my favorite challenges was, like, towards the end of the semester, and Dr. Hedman was like, I know there's still one person you keep seeing, you haven't talked to them yet, so go say hi to that person and get their photo. Go meet someone new. And I was like, oh, finally, I have an excuse. Like, I feel like I always need an excuse to, like, go talk to someone. Like, I can't just start a conversation with anyone for no reason. I need to have an ulterior motive. So I always appreciate that push into the uncomfortable from Dr. Hedman and also your peers as well. So that was really great. So when you were in high school looking at colleges, what was that journey like? And then how did you eventually decide on HPU? And you kind of already mentioned why you chose the honors program first.
in high school, I knew I wanted to be a part of an honors program, so that was one of the big things I was looking for. But other than that, I was looking for international relations, and if I wanted to, a criminal justice major. So that was secondary. And I also didn't want to be in New York anymore. I felt like I outgrew the people I knew in my hometown. I mean, that was a personal thing, but I was looking primarily Virginia, Maryland, and High Point was actually the only one in North Carolina. So there, in New York, we have a February break. So I know, weird, right?
I mean, our spring break was in February this year, too.
I know, but we also had a spring break, too.
Oh, okay.
So February break traditionally is because in all the way upstate New York, basically Canada, it used to get too expensive to heat the schools in the winter, and that's how February break started. They would shut down the school for 1 week in the coldest week of the year. and it's kind of kept its tradition. So during that week, I went on a college tour trip, and I toured, I think, 6 campuses. And it was the weekend of Presidential Scholars.
Oh.
So we started at High Point. Bad decision, because I was just thinking about High Point the entire weekend. And Presidential Scholars, obviously there's a lot happening, and there's a lot of hustle and bustle, which is what I wanted. And this was also in the time of COVID, unfortunately. But it was also Valentine's weekend, which was nice. So they had their own Valentine's events. Yeah. I got my own rose. Yes, I got my own rose. So after I left High Point, I was there on a Saturday. I left for a school in Virginia somewhere, and campus was quiet, and it was also crazy hilly, and I knew I didn't want that. But it was like my top school at the time. I think it was University of Richmond we went to next, and it was crazy hilly, and campus was quiet, and it just kind of scared me, knowing that school might not be running for a lot of people in a lot of places. So when I went to these schools, I looked major, campus, and honors program, and then also would I actually be in school due to COVID next semester. I ended up getting it down to like 3 of them, and one of them was like, yeah, there's no guarantee we're coming back to campus next semester, like at all. We might just be virtual. And I said, I don't want that for my freshman year. I wanted something that the university was able to not only handle all the students on campus for COVID, but like make sure we're still enjoying our time. Because I know a lot of my friends had committed to schools for other reasons early on, and they knew that they might have a very atypical freshman year. But I didn't want that. And I said, I want a regular school year. And High Point still did their things. They had their ice cream carts. I don't know if you knew about those.
Yeah, those from my time. But yeah. I've heard the lore.
Yeah, the lore of the ice cream carts and the candy stations to cheer students up. But they also had the food trucks. And they just had a lot of outdoor events my freshman year.
Which I was real smart.
Yes. It was a time. A lot was happening. Obviously, people weren't happy, but I was coming from the north. I was like, I'd rather wear a mask and still have school than not go to school at all.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot from like the guests, because like everyone from your year like came in during COVID, and like High Point handled it pretty well. I feel like still people didn't miss too much.
No, High Point was under the city of High Point, obviously, and they were going based on their mandates. So like sometimes the mask mandates would change back and forth. Yeah. And the school would have to send out emails like, I feel like every 3 months of, you're still wearing your mask. You're not wearing your mask. You're still wearing your mask. It was actually very funny because move-in weekend and the first week of school, we were not required to wear masks. But then the city of High Point, after the first week, was like, everyone has to put them back on. And I don't know if it was because they realized High Point was coming back, or I don't know. It was funny, though, that we were all together maskless because it wasn't required at the time. And if we were going to get sick, we would have been sick already. Yeah. I was like, maybe the city of High Point should have realized when High Point University's campus is coming back.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they do now, because I worked at Publix for a while.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
They have all the local districts and High Point University's like full academic schedules. So they know when like move-in weekend is, they know when family weekend is, like all like the migration stuff is happening, because that's when they're going to come, the kids are going to bring their parents shopping so they can pay for their groceries and all that stuff. So I wonder if that like started because of COVID, like everyone needed to know where the people were.
I definitely think with COVID, it probably helped that. Yeah. I know a lot of places were hit hard with COVID, and I feel like High Point might have, like the city of High Point might have been one. High Point has had a rough past. Yeah. You've heard Dr. Kubain's story a million times, yes? Of how he came in and...
I mean, I don't really know what he came in to, because as an ambassador too, we're only taught like the post-Kubain era. So we don't really know. Like, we know it was, like, on the verge of bankruptcy, but that was it.
Yeah. I've done some talking with I believe it was Professor Dr. Moses, actually an honors professor, and we're in an ideal community class, which is very interesting. So we talk about the different communities on campus, sometimes as like a baseline for talking about ancient communities, so like ancient Greek and Roman communities and the early Christian communities and Jewish communities, and he uses High Point as a baseline for everything. And what about your sororities? What about High Point as a whole? And he's gone into, because I think he's been here a good while, gone into how High Point was really struggling prior to Dr. Hubain coming in, and he's like it's a big difference because he's on the side of the city would have just completely disappeared without Dr. Hubain coming in, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember coming in to visit the first time, and I was like, there's a lot of like empty small houses, like, off campus behind lot A and B.
Yeah.
I remember seeing those. I was like, wow. Like I had never seen so many empty houses before like that. And I think that might have been a bit of an insight of what High Point might have turned into. But I mean, it didn't. And the migrational weekends, we've talked about that in class too. Like, parents love to come and spend their money on their kids when they come here. So you go to Target, you go to a Walmart, you go to all the local restaurants.
Yeah. And they literally know that, and they prepare. Like, it was so interesting being on the other side of it with Publix. And, like, I kind of, like, kept it a secret that I was a High Point student because the local community has their opinions of the school. Some great, some negative, but, like, as it is with all institutions around the country and all that, when they exist in a city, it's like it's a very interesting relationship, like a university and its city relationship, because I don't know. The community just gets annoyed with college kids sometimes. But
yes, understandably so.
Yeah.
But actually, fun fact that I learned, we're High Point University, but sometimes the city will have around like banners and whatnot for events, High Point S, so like apostrophe S, university. So they like to brand us as the university for the city sometimes, which is definitely better for community relations.
Yeah, that's really good. Do you learn about any of that with your major or in criminal justice, like being involved in local community or anything?
Honestly, not so much.
Yeah.
I'll be real there.
Okay. Any like international community projects or anything that you've worked on?
My international relations degree is a lot more of politics and domestic politics as how it is today. There's a lot of focus on like the nationals and not so much local. I do wish we talked a little bit more about the actual community of High Point, which is why I love my honors class, Ideal Community, because this is one that we've really actually talked about High Point as a society in and of itself, living in the greater context of High Point, the city. I'm very interested in people.
Yeah.
I like learning about why people do things and how they come about doing those actions, so their thought process, which is why I love my criminal justice theory classes. We discuss in those classes potential reasons why someone may act in a way and different deterrence theories and all that good stuff. And although it's not a psychology class, it's verging on the similar of psychology.
Do you have an idea of like what is the ideal community? And like I also kind of want to ask you, what is it going to take to make thinking about the future, like a global interconnected world?
Okay.
Thinking like towards like the future. Like.
So that is something I can more answer. So not only in my ideal community class, that actually is my final paper that I do have to start rating soon. It's about how an ideal community would look in your own perspective. But my international relations degree, soon to be degree, hopefully.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about globalization.
Yeah.
And globalization is the concept that the world is getting smaller and smaller with the advances of technology. And I really focused in on a lot of that when I was in Spain. And I found it very interesting because a lot of my classes were like global organizations and how we're interconnected and all that stuff. So this can act as a start to what my final paper will be. I think an ideal community is where communication is easy in the sense of technologically, not necessarily in the sense like communicating with someone in confrontation is never going to be easy. So where people can communicate more easily and where different barriers such as race and religion and class are taken away. What else? I'm trying to think back to some of the other ones. So thinking back to the Iobakoi, which is the Greco-Roman, one of the Greco-Roman societies, they focused heavily on like brotherhood. So I like to think of them as like the beginnings of fraternities and sororities.
Really interesting.
Yes, I saw a lot of
Is this where
connections.
like Greek letters derive from?
I'm not sure. I've actually tried to do a deep dive on Greek life because I am a part of a Latina sorority. I will name drop right now. Latinas Promoviendo Comunidad Lambda Pi Chi Sorority Incorporated.
Yeah.
Long name. We are the Alpha Zeta chapter here at High Point University. So I am very interested in Greek life and like how they came about and why we're Greek lettered. And I've tried to do a lot of research, but a lot of mumbo jumbo gets in there, like the random stuff, and then people get annoyed at Greek life, so they have a lot of random posting. But I like to think of it in my own head. I don't know if this is true. I haven't had the time to do like the full-on research of they're the beginnings of fraternities and sororities because they paid dues, they met once a month, they held ceremonies and festivals, which is thought to be like their Greek fraternity parties. So I can see a lot of similarities in that and how that developed into what it is today. I think because of the emphasis that they placed on supporting one another, so they would help out with funerals, and funerals were a big deal because if you died in a different city, you had to go get the body and then bring it back to the right city where they were going to be. And that takes time and people and taking off from work, which was a big deal in that time because that meant no money for the day. So that concept of fraternity or brotherhood, sisterhood would be very important to have in a community. But not only that, you do also need the concept of charity. I think that's important because, one, you're more likely to then help out someone within your group, within your community, but also it puts a goal to what you're doing. People need to unite around something. Sometimes it's a leader or an ideal, but having a goal in mind, something that is achievable, I think is what would make a good community.
That's good. It's really interesting because something else I wonder about is we're achieving a pretty impressive state of globalization right now in the year of our Lord 2025 and all that. Like you can technically communicate with anyone in the world across any time zones like instantaneously. And like communication is pretty easy with some limitations in certain areas and all that stuff, which hopefully the next couple of centuries might be overcome, ideally maybe. Something I always wonder about is we always hear this mantra of history always repeats itself with human behavior. I was like, but we're so advanced now. We're so interconnected. How we jump that hurdle of like, we know history, we understand each other, we are able to communicate and resolve conflict to the point where we won't repeat history. Do you think we'll ever overcome that, or we already have, or we're always doomed to repeat history?
I think we may always be doomed to repeat history. I think that is part of human nature too. As much as we say education is important, a lot of people like to go and get their education and then forget about it and just continue on in their lives and forget that a liberal arts education is important. I am a big believer in this, just like Dr. Hedman, just like every other honors professor, because it makes you a more well-rounded person. And not only that, it does make you a better person in general, but I like to believe if you're a well-rounded person, you try to open your mind, the growth mindset. Growth mindset. And those are the kinds of people who will continue to try to not repeat their mistakes. They'll try to fix them. But there are other people who don't believe in the value of learning about other things, and they just want to continue going on their one way, and they think that what they're doing, like, that's it. That's fine. And those are the people who tend to forget that you need to look back on the past, and looking back on the past is very important. So looking at our own history to see how we can better ourselves in the future. I'm very passionate about educating our society and starting with the youth, but not everyone thinks that is the most important. They think, oh, we can just fix it where we are, but you really have to start at the beginning. And because people have differing opinions on this, there's going to be differing education in a sense. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. But because of that, when you make your own splits, those two different thought processes, some people are going to be like, okay, we have to look back into the past. We have to look at human behavior. We have to see what we've done. And others are like, well, let's look into the future. Let's look what we've done right now and how we can improve for later, but forget to look back. I think humans are hard. I don't think we're inherently bad per se, but we will always do in self-interest. Like, the first thought will always be in self-interest. It's about whether or not you act on it. So we're always going to repeat history because there are those people who do choose to actively look out only for themselves and do for themselves rather than helping others.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I know I talk a lot, Reed.
No, it's all good. It's a little sad, but
It's life, but that's why I want to go into nonprofit work. I want to help those who can't necessarily help themselves, but give people resources to better themselves. I want to be in the criminal justice sphere, so specifically more juvenile justice and court advocacy. I know it doesn't pay well, which is why a lot of people don't go into it. People want to make money, but there are people out there who want to do good. That's why there are different organizations, like you see APO on campus. APO, the service fraternity, not the honors fraternity, honors theater fraternity. They're out there doing good. They're doing I know they do their Greenway street cleanup. I know they have different collections for food donations. But a lot of people will choose themselves first. And it's sad. Sad to say.
Yeah, that's something I would also, like you were saying with ideal community, charity, and like importance of serving community without looking for personal gain out of it. That takes real well-roundedness and self-awareness and like caring for other people you don't even know and probably never will know. That's something I always find fascinating about, like Habitat for Humanity, for example. You go to these specific places, specific houses, and like the guide, they like tell you who the house is for and like how many kids they have and like what they're doing in their life, and like you know the name of the house of the person you're building the house for. And like it's very interesting. So I think there is hope in that regard, but there are always going to be, because there's so many types of people in the world. There will always be the full spectrum. Full spectrum exists, from the selfish Scrooges to like the caring Mother Teresas and all that stuff. So that would be really good. But it would just be interesting to see how the types of communities we develop and how caring they will be for each other.
Yeah.
And like, that's really impressive that you're going into that juvenile, whatever it is.
Juvenile justice and all the advocacy work. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing.
Of course.
We have one last question for you.
Okay.
It's not my question. It was left by the previous guest.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So they'll ask you a question, and then you have an opportunity to leave a question for the next guest.
Okay, got it.
This will be a final question on the podcast. So the previous guest wants to ask you, what piece of advice would you give your freshman self, and what piece of advice from anyone would you take into the next chapter of your life?
Oh, okay. I'm going to expose myself a tiny bit here. In high school, I was like a major try-hard nerd, and that started to carry over into college, and then it kind of hit me that this is more of a transition into adult life. So I would definitely tell myself, Isabel, calm down. You don't have to worry about being perfect. You just have to do your best and continue to move forward. Freshman Isabel was a whole other Isabel. She really was. And I think it wasn't exactly a piece of advice given to me, but freshman year, something that really kind of hit me. And I like to think back to this time in my life. I was taking Here Be Dragons with Dr. Hedman and Dr. O'Toole and Dr. Allen. And Dr. O'Toole was a practicing Buddhist. And I just went to Taiwan and I went to a whole bunch of Buddhist temples, so I've really thought about this a lot recently. He started a train of thought of who are you, which is a lot of what the class was about. And he brought up, are you the same size? Do you look the same? Do you go by the same name? Do you have the same interests? And just went through this whole line of who are you if not an ever-changing being? And that's something I definitely want to hold on to and bring into my future, because I find change hard. And sometimes I don't even realize I'm going through change sometimes. And other times I realize it and I struggle really hard. But the evolution of Isabel freshman year to Isabel now, I saw parts of it, but I also didn't see parts of it. Like, I don't know how I became so involved on campus. I'm not going to lie. It just kind of happened. Opportunities came to me. And I'm definitely not the same person in what I want to do in my life. I mean, a little bit's still there, but knowing that there's always space to grow is very important to me, because I don't have to be like this for the rest of my life. I used to think when I was little, like, oh, this is just how life is. Like, I'm just going to keep going down this one path. But that's not how it is. So that's definitely something I want to bring forward.
That's good. We are ever-changing beings.
Yes, ever-changing beings.
Therefore, we can grow from a selfish person into a caring one.
That is so true. Very true.
There you go. There's hope, guys. So I'll pass this over to you.
Okay.
You can choose your color. There's an example of some previous questions. Can be absolutely whatever you want. Go ahead and...
Pink.